plot at the expense of story is a mistake a lot of writers maybe fall into.
What do successful short films have in common?
Am I allowed to say they're short?
Sure, that's okay.
So sometimes I do a lot of judging for short films through HollyShorts, Burbank Film Festival, and occasionally get roped into some other ones. And when I see a movie is 25 minutes long, like I don't want to make it sound like I hold something against longer films, right? I'm not a lengthist or whatever the term might be. But you better have a great reason for that being 25 minutes. And guess what? Some of them do. But then other times I'm like, okay, I'm 5 minutes in, where's this thing going? And that doesn't mean a movie can't be abstract. It might not have the most clean approach to a hero's journey, a 3 acts. That's fine. But I'm thinking about this is going to be part of a slot of films. So when we talk about short films, if you're talking festival, it's a little bit different if you're only thinking about putting it up on YouTube. But if you're thinking festivals, you have to think about, okay, will this film play nice with others? So if it's really long, it's like, well, did it earn its length? Sometimes, by the way, I'll see a 2-minute short film. I'm like, oh, cool. And then you're like, oh, even 2 minutes was too long. I think it's just, in the end of it all, what are you going after? What's the hook of it? You know, I sometimes will see a short film which baffles me, and yet I can't stop thinking about it. David Lynch did that to me many times over as a filmmaker. And so those are movies I'll totally push for. And there's something really sweet. There was one short film I really loved that, I apologize, I'm blanking on the name, but I remember it's like an unusual love story, a young woman. It was, I think, filmed in Poland. And it was so beautifully done and so well acted. And I remember the last scene is her kind of running for freedom with her new friend. And she has like a problem with her legs, so she has like crutches. But then she like tosses her crutches on and just limps along to catch up with him. And I remember thinking like, that is joyous. And then we took that film and I moderated the Q&A for that one. And I even said, okay, I brought up my phone. I'm like, I'm going to read my review of your film. And it was so exciting to see that thing on a massive screen. And again, I think it goes back to just emotionally, as a viewer, I connected to it. We'll connect to stories of all genres, all lengths, all sizes. If it's a little too long, again, you might ask yourself, okay, well, will we stay connected to it? Do you get to us sooner than later? I think a lot of times a big, successful, easy way to fix stories that might be a little long for short, start it a little bit later. Instead of it being the first time the characters meet, they already know each other. Sort of hit the ground running might be a suggestion I have, with the understanding, like sometimes hitting the ground running is a shot that might be a little bit abstract, a little bit oblique, but emotionally you get us quickly. You know, maybe don't make us wait too much to feel. Don't wait too long for your story to really get moving, I think would be a suggestion. And don't be afraid to be a little on the shorter side. But if it's longer, okay, just fill that space. Make sure you're using every ounce of that real estate, because someone's got to watch a lot of short films if they're looking at film festivals. And it's going to be with a lot of other short films. So what's going to enable it to have good use of its own real estate so that it should be in that lineup, it should be in that block of films.
And like you said, make sure it, quote, plays well with others.
Yeah.
So if it's going to be in a slate of films
Yeah.
at HollyShorts or whatever, make sure that it kind of fits into the sort of time frame.
Yeah. And I will say, it's funny, over time, because I've been judging short films for a really long time now, the number of really good films we get just seems to increase.
Yeah.
So it makes the job harder. In a good way, and then it's like, oh my God, like can we add another block of films, because there's a lot of cool storytellers out there, and it's become so much more accessible. You know, even like the 20-some odd years ago, I went to film school. Like you couldn't edit at home. I think I knew one guy who did, and the rest of us had to get 8 gig data dock drives that were like the size of a brick to edit our stuff on. You know, and now of course my son can edit his YouTube videos on his phone. And so a lot more people have access.
What are the biggest mistakes you see in short films?
The biggest mistakes might be taking too long to get that story moving. And when I say that, I don't want to make it sound like I'm saying there's one story that works, and you got to read the hero's journey or else what's the point? Or was a hero with 1,000 faces. Like, the truth is, I think if I'm watching 5 minutes of a short and I feel like it hasn't started, I'm not going to push it through. And even when I use that term, it hasn't started, it doesn't necessarily mean I know exactly what's going on yet, but gives me something to pull me in. But when I think plot at the expense of story is a mistake a lot of writers maybe fall into. But with a short film especially, when you just don't have much time, like plot is in essence what's happening, but story is like the emotion behind it. So it's like if you lay too much road down, too much setup, it's going to be hard to keep your audience engaged. And to go back to you got to play well with others. You got a bunch of other films. And that's a long block. 2 hours of short films, each one's got to really move. And it doesn't mean they have to be super fast cut. They can be languidly paced as long as it's interesting, as long as it's emotionally, we can be invested in it. But I do find a lot of short films, I'm like, well, they're just setting up way too much. And there's a lot of exposition and, again, plot over story. And that's when I might not make it through the second half of the film. And not because I'm impatient necessarily, at least I don't think I am, but I think it's because I am trying to think about that audience. I am trying to think about watching this with 7 other short films. And how when you're in a screening room and or a theater and you have a film that isn't playing, you can tell. Right, everyone suddenly has a cough. Everyone's rustling in their seats. They're more interested in their popcorn. I'm almost like listening for that as I'm watching these films to make sure, as I'm judging these films. But again, I think sometimes it's also in editing. A lot of people know how to cut. Edit is a different beast. It's kind of like not everyone who can pick up a guitar can play a guitar solo. Not everyone's Eddie Van Halen, or John Mayer, I guess. Some people like him. No offense. But I think when you're in post on your film, making sure it moves. Also, sound design. Sound can be a much cheaper way to fix things. And if the sound is rough, that can really pull us out of a film. Sound design can also be like your inexpensive best friend in filmmaking compared to, of course, what you need to get in front of the camera. And conversely, if you don't put the time and attention into sound design, it can make your film feel a lot less professional. And so I think it's like making sure the music's right, making sure the sound is clean, that you can hear people. And let's say you didn't get the best on-set production sound, okay, just spend some time to really clean it up so it doesn't feel too, student-y, doesn't feel as professional it can be, because student films can be incredibly professional. I've seen plenty. I focus a lot on the student films at Burbank's Film Festival. And, some of them I have to remind myself they're student films. You couldn't tell. But yeah, you don't want it to feel less than pro, because a lot of people can make their films really pro. It's about take the time to do it.
Do you think that's something that has actually gotten stronger, but now the story is lacking?
It can be, right? I know sometimes I get surprised when I see edits that don't feel as tight as they can be, because I'm like, these filmmakers have had these editing tools forever. But again, it's cutting versus editing. Editing takes a little bit more artistry. And so I think, you sometimes find that even though a lot of filmmakers have had these tools forever, it's really figuring out how to make them work. How to make your movie sort of sing, so to speak, make it fly.
So like a graceful dissolve versus just a hard cut.
Yeah.
Is that what you're talking about?
And sometimes the hard cut is exactly what you need, or a jagged cut. sometimes the kind of like non-linear edit is exactly what we need. But then other times it's like, okay, why is it this way? I always go back to music. And so it's like, well, if it's a symphony, what's this part? What's this part of the larger piece, this chapter, if you will, this movement. And, I think also too what helps with edit is character point of view. It doesn't mean it has to be first person like a found footage horror movie, but the idea of emotionally, who's this happening to? Who's the character we most connect with, and allow the edit to kind of come out of that. That can be a really good way to sort of tighten your storytelling.